Hey, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of Let's Start a Conversation. I'm one of your hosts, Antonio Ibarra, and I'm so happy to be here with you tonight. Tonight, as always, I have my partner in anti-crime, Jeremiah Irvin. Hey, Jeremiah, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, man? I'm glad to be here. One more weekend, another Sunday, another time. We're going to start a conversation, and I'm glad that we're here together. And we got some guest speakers that are going to be coming on and actually keeping the conversation going. And this is going to be a beautiful and wonderful show today. And I'm glad that everybody's here to partake in it.
You know, I'm really looking forward to this too. I got to be honest with you. The fact that we've got some guest speakers on has me really hyped and pumped up for this show. I think it's going to be great. I couldn't agree with you more. We've got some great things to talk about today. And one of the first things that I think we should talk about is we should let everyone know about our newest campaign that we have going on, which is Operation Home Safe. So Operation Home Safe is a program that we started here at America United to combat child sex trafficking. As most of us know, there is a huge issue on the internet right now between Twitter and Facebook and other social media platforms, including TikTok, that are promoting or allowing child sex trafficking and pedophilia on the platforms that they have going on. So Operation Home Safe is a program that we've started to partner with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, which we are in the process of partnering with, as well as the Office of Juvenile Justice at the federal government. In order for us to partner with them, local law enforcement, federal law enforcement, and prosecutors to allow us to be able to not only assist in getting these websites and pages and links and such taken down, but bring the perpetrators to justice as well. And I know you're really excited about that too, Jeremiah. So I know you've got a lot to say on the topic.
Yeah, so I just wanted to jump in here real quick and say that we're also reaching out to Tim Ballard, the CEO of Operation Underground Railroad. I saw him in an interview that he did with Candace Owen on her show, and I've been reading about him a little bit more. So we're actually in the process of reaching out to him as well. We're going to work with them, and we're going to see what resources we can provide to them and how we can best help them, along with all the other organizations and agencies that my partner Antonio mentioned there shortly. So we've done that. Let's move on, brother.
All right, so that's our little bit about Operation Home Safe. You guys can definitely go ahead and support that and follow the page on Facebook. You can get it from our America United Facebook page and follow the movement there and help out as best as you can in any way possible. The next thing that I really want to talk about, Jeremiah, which I think is really, really exciting news, is the newest acquisition that we've brought on to the company, which is America United News Network. Now, formerly, it was known as American Patriot News Network, but as of this past Monday, America United signed a deal with American Patriot News Network to take over ownership of that network. So we now own it. It's in the process of being rebranded as America United News Network, and it'll be the news outlet arm of America United. There'll be great articles and stories posted there. Bloggers will be, on their blogging and doing their video blogs and their website blogs and just putting information out about the things that are going on. The state chapter presidents will be able to get in there and do blogs on what's going on with their state chapters, as well as news and press releases from the national headquarters for America United. So that's really exciting news. And it's awesome that we were able to acquire that and bring that in under our umbrella of America United. I think that that's great.
It is. It's very great. And for those of you naysayers out there that didn't realize that we were going to be growing as big and as fast as we are, obviously you haven't been paying attention. This is big news. This is great. This is awesome. We have a lot of things going on right now, a lot of movement across the country. And Antonio and I, along with the team that we have put in place and the wonderful state chapter leaders, we're going to do great things for this country. The country is ready for it, and we're waiting, and here we come.
I couldn't have said it better, Jeremiah. I really couldn't. We've got great things coming, and there's so much in store yet that we haven't even gotten to, but that's in the works. And, day by day, we're just growing and increasing everything. And I think that this is going to be amazing. It's going to be a great journey, and I'm happy to be a part of it with you. So real quick, let's get to a couple of things and get them out of the way so that we can get to the context of the show. So first, let's talk about our t-shirt fundraiser. We touched on it last week. We're going to touch on it again this week. As everyone knows, if you watched the show last week or if you're following our Facebook page, America United is doing a t-shirt fundraiser right now. This screenshot that we have here that's being displayed is a little bit old. We're actually up to about $650 raised now. We've sold 54 shirts. And that is still going until Tuesday at midnight. So Tuesday at midnight going into Wednesday morning, that fundraiser will officially close. If you haven't gotten your shirt yet, the link is in the description for this show. You can look at it right now and go click on that and purchase yours. You can also make an additional donation if you want. There are men's and women's t-shirts in black and gray. There's also a unisex tank top as well as a child's version in black of the t-shirt. So if you haven't gotten one yet, go ahead and pop over there. They're about $24 a piece. It's a great way to support our organization and our cause with the different movements and campaigns that we have going on right now. The money that we get from these t-shirts will go directly to America United, and it allows us to further our missions and our goals and do things like Operation Home Safe and the All Lives Matter and Red, White, and Back the Blue campaigns that we have going on right now. So please, if you can, if you have a little money to spare, remember to go over there to the link in the description and buy a t-shirt from us. The other thing that I want to talk about is that we have the paypal.me link. So if you guys want to donate directly to us and you don't really want to buy a t-shirt, you can do that if you go online to paypal.me/America United. You just type in the amount that you want to donate, click submit, and you'll put in your credit card information, and it'll automatically send that right into our America United National Headquarters account. And it'll, again, go to us being able to do things such as Operation Home Safe. So that gets that out of the way. Jeremiah, what do you say we get to the context of our show and bring in our first guest speaker and get to our first
one second, Antonio. Let me just reiterate something here in regards to the donation aspect. If you believe in this cause, if you believe in this organization, we really need your help. Everyone knows in this country, everything is ran by money. We can't operate this off of wish and hope and a dream. We need operating funds. So please, if you believe in our cause and want to have a significant impact in this country and help move everything forward and bring us back together, please donate. As Antonio said in the link below at the paypal.me link that's provided. So please do that. And Antonio, I'm ready. Let's get into it, brother.
All right, so let's go to our first segment. Our first segment is going to be, in case anyone doesn't know, tonight's theme that we're going to be talking about is law enforcement involved shootings. Some good, some bad, some are good shoots, some aren't such good shoots. But we're going to break them down, look at them from both sides. We've got a guest speaker on to help us discuss them and decide on them tonight. And we'll leave it up to you guys to decide for yourselves whether or not it's a good shoot. But let's talk about the first one. The first one takes us to a bad shoot involving a Detroit police officer who shot a dog. Now, the first thing that I will say about this is this video is extremely graphic. So we are not going to air it on our show. However, the link for the video is provided to you guys down in the description of the video. So if you guys want to watch the video to see what it is we're going to be talking about, you can do so. However, we strongly caution you that viewer discretion is advised. This is a very graphic video. This involves a Detroit Police Department officer who entered a house on a drug raid warrant. They entered the house, and when they entered the house, they contacted the female homeowner, had her to get down onto the ground, asked her where the dogs were because they could hear them in the house. She said that they were in one of the bedrooms. When the officer rounds the corner, he sees one of the dogs walking towards him. As you can see in the clip here, the screenshot that's there, the dog was walking towards him. The dog did not appear to be vicious or attacking in any way, from my opinion and what I saw in the video. And the officer discharged 2 rounds from his shotgun into the dog, fatally killing that animal. At the same time, the second dog appears from the back room, and the officer hesitates for a moment. The dog runs back into the back bedroom, and then he comes back out to check on the first dog. And when he gets to the first dog, the officer on rounds 3 to 4 more rounds into that animal. So that being said, we're going to bring on our guest speaker that we have tonight, Zachery Farrell. He's a law enforcement contributor to the show with us. Welcome to the show, Zach. And let's get your take on this video. What do you think based on what you saw? So, Zach, you're going to have to unmute there for a second.
Sorry about that, guys. I said thanks for having me. I was trying to keep it muted so you can hear things going on in my house. So we were talking about the video with the dog shooting. I watched the video several times, and the first dog did appear to sprint towards the officer. Okay, I can't disagree with that shooting on the fact when he entered the home, the dog was barking, the dog came out in the hallway, and dog directly beeline for the officer. He discharged a shotgun, shot that dog. Okay, the second shooting, the second dog, I can't stand with that one. I'm a dog lover myself. But when I watched the video and saw the second dog not charging the officer, not even going past the other dog who'd been killed. I don't think it was an okay shoot. And for an officer to do that, I mean, he really put his job at risk, because when you're coming in the hands of taking action towards an animal in a shooting. There was another officer I knew, he was fired from his department for shooting an animal on a drug raid. The animal was about 10 pounds. It was a little corgi style dog, and there was really no reason to shoot it. But it just seems that nationwide, for a long time, I was watching videos left and right that there was a theme where officers were just quick to shoot at the dog if there was a dog present.
So I agree with you on a lot of what you just said. So I wanted to apply a different aspect, not a different aspect, but I wanted to just add some more meat to some context to what you're saying, so the public can understand why I agree with you in regards to the first dog. The first dog. Now, obviously, everybody, the police officers are coming for a drug raid. Intentions are high, feelings are high, and they're nervous, they're scared. They never know what to expect, what's coming behind that door. So initially, when the dog came around the corner, there's this thing called a 21-foot rule. I don't know if you guys remember that in your training, but it has to do with someone with a knife. So it takes about 21 feet when you engage a suspect with a knife. It takes about 21 feet for him to grab that knife out of his pocket, or if it's in his hand, for him to make that approach before you can get your sidearm out of your pocket, out of your holster, to engage that target, that suspect. It takes 21 feet before danger is close and you may lose your life. So with that officer coming in the door and seeing that dog there, the first initial dog sprinting towards him, I also agree, that was a good shoot. Because he didn't know what to expect. He didn't know the dog. He doesn't know the area that he's in. He doesn't know if that dog is hostile. The dog maybe didn't have his teeth open or his teeth showing or was growling, but the dog was coming at him at a high rate of speed. I personally think that I would have engaged the dog myself. But after seeing that dog hit the ground, and then another dog come out of the corner. Now, granted, my weapon is still at the ready. I see the other dog making this approach, but then the dog, I yell, and the dog runs away. So I know that dog is somewhat not of a threat. So he shouldn't have shot that dog, in my opinion. I don't know how you guys, Antonio, what do you think about that?
So my thoughts on it is, when I watched the video, I mean, did the dog rapidly come out of the room in the very beginning? Yes, the dog, I wouldn't say he sprinted or he ran, but he kind of trotted out of the room, and it was a bit of a rapid approach to the officer. From my take on the video, and again, I wasn't there. I wasn't the officer responding. We don't know what other information was provided to the officers prior to getting to that house, or if they had prior interactions with these animals. But based just on solely what I saw in the video with the dog approaching, to me, it did not appear that the first dog was a threat. He wasn't barking. He wasn't growling. He approached at a little bit of speed, but in the video, we don't really get to see whether or not that dog was going to charge the officer, because the dog didn't even make it halfway down the hallway before the officer put 2 shotgun shells into him. So I think that there's some speculatory there. I think that we're not ever going to really know what the situation is. But I do say that the second shooting was completely unjustified. The second dog that was shot, there was no need for that. The dog absolutely did not sprint towards him. He didn't pose a threat to the officer whatsoever. Never made it past the first dog that was down. And like you said, the officer shouted, the dog retreated into the back room and then cautiously approached the dog that was on the ground. And the officer unloaded 4 more shells into that dog. There was no threat from that second animal whatsoever. So at the very least, I will call the second shoot a bad shoot. I think it's important also to note here, guys, that this is not the first time that the Detroit Police Department has had this problem. So the Detroit Police Department has had an ongoing problem over the last couple of years of officers shooting animals, specifically dogs that are owned by persons that they contact in a house. And the other thing that's important to note here is that even though this video is from 2018, the reason that we bring it up now is because this just recently settled in court in the last couple of weeks here. And it resulted in a $75,000 payout from the department. And they deemed the shoot as an unjustified shoot as well. So that's important to note as well. I mean, they did do an investigation in the department, and they settled out of court for $75,000 to the animal owner. Just all around a tragic loss of what probably was a very good dog and a good family pet. Just curious and trying to protect its owner as best it can in either one of the dog's cases. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are on it.
Well, that's true. You can't fault the dog on that, but you also have to remember that we're trained to deal with these situations. Officers are supposed to use caution and objectivity and analyze what's going on before they make that split-second decision. You get very little time to do that, but from what I was seeing, there was quite a bit of time for him to analyze what was going on and determine whether he should take a shot at the second dog or not.
I agree completely.
So let's look at the totality of the entire situation. Let's unpack this. So we've hit on it. We've unpacked it somewhat, and we are at a position now where Monday morning quarterback, what would happen? And granted, we don't know fully what we would have done. I know what I would have potentially felt in that regard in the approach of the dog. All right, so we got a warrant that we're going to serve. We know that there's known drug activity in that home. We know that if there's drug activity there, and according to the report, there was some arrests that were made. So we know what potentially happens with drug-induced families or syndicates that have. We're going to go in and make some arrests. We know what potentially is behind those doors. Those individuals potentially have weapons. Okay, so like I said before, we're making our approach. We're tactical up. We're ready to make entry. So we're going inside this home. We hear the dogs barking in the distance potentially as we're approaching, or when we break open the door. We hear the dogs barking. So we know that with known drug activity in the home, and we know just based off prior experience dealing with drug activity in homes, that they have these more what are considered more aggressive dogs, the pit bulls. So we know that there were 2 pit bulls. All right, all that will be going through my head, and potentially what was going through his head. So the officer goes into the house, makes contact with that one individual who they were able to subdue and tell him to get on his knees, and he was on his knees. But then they hear the dogs barking. The officer comes around the corner, he blades himself, sees the dog coming down the hallway. He says, dog. The dog is moving at a high rate of speed. No, it's not barking. It's not growling. But that dog is still approaching. He doesn't know that dog, as I mentioned before. And so with saying that the dog is coming, he engages that dog. He shoots the dog. Sad. We find out later, 2020 is always, the best vision, but we didn't know that coming in the door. And then, you hear the other dog coming out. The dog, and that dog retreated. Now, he shot that dog. I think what Detroit did in regards to this guy, this officer, the first dog, in my opinion, was a good shoot because he didn't know. You don't know. I think what he got hammered on was that second dog because he didn't use his training, his knowledge, skills, and ability. He didn't really assess that situation. He acted completely and only on emotion on that second one, when he can clearly see, because I know his stress levels are up and he's high. And again, we're Monday morning quarterbacking this, but when he saw the dog retreat, that should have pinged in his head that, okay, this is a less lethal threat. And then, but when the dog came out, he engaged that dog anyway. And that to me was the bad part. He should be reprimanded for that and potentially fired because that was a bad shoot. Imagine if that was a human being. You know what I mean? If that was another person coming out through there, then that would be an issue. I got to be honest with you, Antonio and Zach. I got to be honest with you. I am not a big dog person. When I approach a home, when I was working the road, I would go in and people had dogs, and I could hear very large dogs. And I'm like, before I come in your house, you need to silence your dog. Put your dog away. I'm not coming in your house. And if I did come in the house, and it was like, say, if it was a domestic situation, or I'm coming in the door, I'm breaching the door, I'm coming in full head of steam because I know what I'm coming there for. I hear the dogs in the background. To me, that dog is aggressive until I can see otherwise. That first one was a good shoot. That second one, no. I think that was a horrible shoot.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think that the second one was definitely a horrible shoot. I can see your point on the first one. Again, and it may just be my my experience with dogs that makes me a little bit more trusting of them. I don't know. I personally own pit bulls, so for me, I guess I'm not afraid of them per se, or a bigger dog. I grew up around big dogs. But yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from. And yeah, at the end of the day, the officer doesn't know this situation with this dog. He doesn't know what the dog is doing. So yeah, I would say that the first one, I can see the justification for it. But the second one, without a doubt, I agree with both of you, is unjustified. I think 100% it's unjustified, and I think we can agree on that. So let me get us over to our next talking point that we're going to talk about. And this video here is one that's been the topic of a lot of debate in the last couple of days, especially the last couple of hours that we've seen. This one involves a man who was shot when he answered the door. Law enforcement came to his door. They knocked on it. These were Phoenix police officers, knocked on his door. They were dispatched for what appears to be a noise complaint. When the man came to the door, he had a firearm in his right hand. One officer ordered him to drop the firearm, and the man went to his knees, put the weapon behind his back. The officer on the other side of the door unloaded 3 shots into the subject. We have that video to watch, so we're going to go ahead and watch that video real quick here, and then we'll come back.
Phoenix Police. How you doing? Whoa! Put your hand! Phoenix Police. Whoa! Put your hand down!
All right, so there is the video clip. The gentleman answered the door, had a firearm in his right hand, and was ordered to drop the weapon, at which point the weapon appears to have gone behind his back, and the officer on the other side of the door fired 3 shots into this gentleman, killing him. The link for the video is in the description for you guys if you need to watch it again, but let's go ahead and talk about this. I know that this is going to be a talking point. This is going to be a debate right here. I know it is. I'll give it over to Jeremiah first real quick. Jeremiah, your thoughts on this video. What are you thinking?
All right. So again, all right, we got a noise complaint. I know we're gonna talk about this towards the end. We're gonna talk about, the caller making the phone call. And I want to address that issue as well. But I want to wait until someone else brings it up. If they don't, then I'll harp on it. But initial contact, the officers make their way. You can see both sides. We know from training how we're going to come into make an approach when we have a loud noise or potential domestic situation. We know how we're going to make the approach. We're going to knock on the door, make notification. We're going to blade. We're going to spread out alongside the window because we got to get out of the fatal funnel. Because most police deaths, when they approach someone's home in a domestic situation, most deaths happen in that fatal funnel. What I mean to the public is the fatal funnel is standing in the doorway, where someone inside that home can blast a shotgun straight to that doorway and it makes contact with the officer. So we stand off to the side. Now, granted, we knock on the door, make notification with those officers there, and then the guy came out, kind of like aggressive with his hand behind his back. And you have one officer that he did not see, but he saw the one that was in front of him. Okay. And so having that happen, he's only focused. The victim is only focused on the officer that's in front of him. He doesn't see the officer that's there, and they're saying, "Whoa, gun!" Because that officer that's behind him has line of sight. He can see that weapon, and so he's saying "gun," and then the guy raises his hand, and as if and leans down as if he's putting it down, but it's in the shade of darkness because he's leaning back, putting the weapon down inside the doorway of the home where the officer behind him can't see it, nor can the officer in front of him can't see it. So I understand why that officer engaged him from behind. Okay, I understand why. And the officer in front, he couldn't see what was going on. Now, granted, he probably would have engaged at some point, but he was more slow on the uptake. He didn't see what was going on. All right, now let's take off the police badge, let's take off the uniform, and let us be in that home. We're inside the home, and somebody called the police on us, and we're actually, and there's a lot of noise. The police come to our door, wee hours in the morning. We look out the peephole. We don't see anybody standing there. We have our side on. Now, granted, we're armed anyway because we're going to come to the door, and that late of night, with somebody at your door, and then you look out the peephole, there's nobody there. to be honest with you, I probably wouldn't have opened the door. But, you know, until they came and really announced and they said police. Now, that's another question that just popped in my head, another aspect. Did he hear them say police when they knocked on the door?
Well,
I know I heard it.
And that's one of the things that I was going to bring up, Jeremiah, is whether or not he was clearly heard announcing himself. I know we can hear it in the video, but with all the yelling that followed right after that, the gun, 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 and then the gunshot went off immediately after that, whether or not the announce that he gave was clearly heard, I don't know. But I'm interested to hear what Zach has to say on this. Zach, what's your take on this? Because I know that you know, you were talking about both sides earlier. You were seeing it from both ends of it. So I'm interested to hear what you have to say on that.
So last night, I saw the video last night. A friend of mine had posted on Facebook, and I watched it. And I said my 2 cents, which erupted 9 hours of Monday morning quarterbacking and demonizing police and this, that, and the other thing. And I was just trying to get them to understand, like, I'm a law enforcement experience, and from the law enforcement side of it, okay, we have to react to split-second circumstances with split-second decision-making with facts we were presented in front of us, right? So what were the facts? I believe these officers were called to a domestic call, not just a noise complaint. I'm not sure if Jeremiah wants to step in and talk about that or not, but from what I understand, it was a domestic call. So
what I will say real quick is that if you watch the entirety of the video, I believe at the end of the video, or it might have been a different video that I saw, I was able to hear the 911 call that came in. The caller is part of the problem in this, because the caller stated that, you know, he could hear doors banging and slamming. He said someone might be getting thrown into a door, but the caller clearly states on the 911 line to the dispatcher, when she asked, do you believe anyone's being hurt? He said, maybe possibly if it'll get the officers here sooner. So to me, that's a caller who stated that they did that specifically because they wanted the cops to show up, because it was probably just a noise complaint. And I think that some of the onus on that has to go on to the 911 dispatcher for not relating that vital part of information to units in the field and to the police officers. Because if the dispatcher had related, hey, I've got this caller on the line, they're stating that they think that there may be a domestic going on here, but they also stated whatever it'll take to get the officers there faster. To me, in my experience as a law enforcement officer, that completely changes how I'm approaching this scene.
Exactly. So I agree. I agree. I'm glad somebody brought up the caller. And I agree completely that the caller was the problem. The caller put the officers in that situation and put that gentleman in that situation and that girlfriend. The caller, based off his selfish acts and selfish nature, because I want to go to sleep, instead of maybe tapping on the floor or going next door or downstairs and say, hey guys, can you turn it down? Now, granted, I know people aren't going to do that anymore, and that's half the problem, but they could have avoided this man being shot. And
that is half the problem, Jeremiah. Half the problem is that people nowadays use law enforcement as a intermediary for anything. You know, oh, I don't like the sign that's in my neighbor's front yard, let me call the police. Oh, they're making too much noise, let me call the police. Whereas back in the day, you know, when I was a kid growing up, and the rest of you guys were younger growing up, you know, we didn't have that problem. If there was something going on, you know, you went next door and you knocked on your neighbor's door and you're like, hey, this is what's going on, you know, can you keep it down a little bit or whatever. But nowadays people want to use law enforcement as the overall handle everything. And law enforcement is being put into situations where we're having to deal with things that we shouldn't be having to deal with. And it brings an already escalated situation to a higher elevation now because we're there. Because as soon as law enforcement shows up, you've already got a dangerous situation the second police arrive on the scene, because we have a gun. So now there's already a weapon on the scene the second we show up. Exactly. So with that being said, the public needs to stop calling us to situations, or to calling police to situations that don't need to involve law enforcement. If your neighbor's being too loud, knock on the door, say, hey, can you turn it down? Now, if they continue doing it and they tell you to go pound sand and, you know, or whatever happens, then yeah, you call police and we'll handle it. But attempt to rectify it yourself first. Jeremiah, 100%, this caller led to the elevation of what this call became. And again, I really want to stress that I think that the dispatcher needs to take some onus on this for not relating that information to units in the field. But I know Zach was trying to say something, so I'll give you a second, Zach. Go ahead.
No, just it was back to what my commentary was, that once the officers are on scene, all right, we're trained to act in a way that's safe for us and safe for everybody else, because I don't want to be in that fatal funnel. And I've read too many reports about officers, rookie officers, just fresh out of the academy, walking right up to that front door, Next thing you know, shotgun rounds are coming through. Okay, so they did the right thing. They stood off the side, they bladed, they knocked, they announced themselves. Whether they heard the officers not announce themselves or not is not my problem. Just as a person, and I believe the police arrived around 11 p.m. because the call came at 10:44. I've never answered my door with a gun in my hand. I've never, like, if somebody knocked on my door and I said, they didn't answer me, I say, who is it? I look out a window, I can't see anybody, you know, I'll probably call the police because, hey, like, somebody's knocking on my door and I know they're there, but they're not answering me. I don't know who they are. I've repeatedly tried to get them to tell me who they are, and it's just a sketchy situation. But the last thing I'm going to do is make a volatile situation worse and rip my door open and step out with a gun in my hand. Okay, I was trying to get these guys to understand that don't look at this from a law enforcement perspective. Look at this from a person perspective. Who answers their door with a gun in their hand? Not a reasonable person. So it's understandable that the mindset those officers had, that they're walking into a volatile situation because they got to respond to a domestic, that's already high risk. Now they got a guy ripping the door open and walking out with a gun. Okay, there's no way that one or both of those officers weren't justified in feeling fear for their lives and reacting the way they did because somebody just stepped out at them presenting a firearm.
Absolutely, so, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. I'm sorry, Jeremiah. Go ahead.
So that, for full transparency, for everyone out there that's listening, so they can have the full context of what happened. So they were playing video games and they were making salsa. They were they were loud. The games were loud, and they were playing Crash Bandicoot. I think that's the name. Is that a Sonic game? I think, and that's kind of loud game or whatever. And I agree with Zach, for full transparency in regards to answering the door. As I stated before, and we're armed. It's 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I can't see what's up that peephole. I'm not going to go to the door with the weapon in my hand. But if it's something's fishy, then I'm going to protect my family. But I'm not going to come to the door, and I'm definitely not going to open that door the way he opened the door, because that was an aggressive posture as well, opening the door the way he did. So that it was just bad all the way around. And to be honest with you, now, Antonio, in hindsight being 2020 and remembering the video, they were playing a video game. It was a noise complaint, so the noise was already loud. He did not hear. He couldn't have heard it. He couldn't have heard the police knocking on the door the way we heard it knocking on the door. Police, Detroit police, or whatever. Not Detroit, but police, Phoenix police. He couldn't have heard that. But it was escalated when he opened the door. The hostilities were there. He came with a gun. The officer saw it. Yeah. So
I agree 100%. I think that there was a lot of different things that contributed to this. There was a lot of failures along the way, starting with the caller going to the 911 dispatcher, the way that the party answered the door. Some environmental factors definitely played in, both with the time of night that it was and the lighting that was available, along with the noise that was coming from the house to begin with. So I think that there was a lot of things that came from that, and I think that we're going to have to kind of track this story and follow up with it later, to really see how it turns out and what comes of it. To really see if any other facts and circumstances come out with that. So I want to move us along to our next topic that we have, though. It's another law enforcement involved shooting. This one takes us all the way to North Carolina. This one, officers were called to a report of a man walking down the street with a firearm. When the first arriving deputy showed up on scene, the officer saw that the gentleman had a shotgun across his chest. He got out of his cruiser, ordered the man to put the gun down, at which point it is hard to see in the video. We're not going to play this video again because it is graphic. So you can get the link in the description if you want to watch the video. However, the officer orders the gentleman to put the shotgun down, at which point the gentleman presents the barrel of the shotgun towards the officer, and the officer then fires rounds and kills that subject. I know that Jeremiah and Zachery have both had a chance to watch this video, so let me get your thoughts on this. We'll start with Zach. Go ahead.
To me, this is, and I don't want to praise it, but like, it's a shooting, it's tragic, but it's a textbook model of what a law enforcement academy would call a good shooting. The officers arrive on scene and they assess the severity of the crime. risk to themselves, risk to the public? Was he a flight risk? Or when I say flight risk, is he running? Okay. Not all of those things have to be present when you use force, but the severity of the crime is that they were responding to a man walking down the street with a firearm in his hands. The risk came when they said, "Hey, bud," or "Hey, brother," something to that point, and they said, "Drop the weapon." Then you hear there's a slight pause, and you hear both officers say, "Drop the weapon." He was told to drop the weapon twice, and then there was another quick second pause before you see him raise the firearm, and then the officer discharges his shotgun one time. Right? I have no argument with that shooting. It's tragic. I'm not sure what that man's mental state was, if he was suicidal or if he was suffering from mental health or anything like that, but there's no argument with me that was a good shoot.
All right, Jeremiah, what are your thoughts on the video?
Well, I'm not going to address the actual shooting first. I'm going to go backwards. I'm going to go with the body cam information. I'm going to approach this from an angle that I think everybody wants to address, the elephant in the room. First off, thank God for body cams. Body cams are the unblinking eye. They are the unbiased witness. That helps so many people out. It helps the police and it helps the actual suspects and victims. So there's no gray line between it. If everybody has body cam, everyone, dash cams inside your vehicles. So what happened with this is, what brought this article to my attention, and Antonio and I talked about it and we discussed it, and we brought Zach into it. What caught my eye was the fact that at this shooting, the public was rallying, ramping up to protest another Black life shot by the hands of white police. They were ramping up. I mean, it was getting to that point where it's going to be another George Floyd, Black Lives Matter rally, and was going to keep this nonsense and this chaos going. But guess what happened? The police department released the video cam, the body cam video, the dash cam video, and it was clear. And it shut it all down. Shut it down. And that's what we need to do in this country with the police. We have body cam footage. We need to release it. To relinquish and end and stop and curtail all this chaos that's getting together and is rallying and destroying this country, creating this divide, deepening and widening this divide, and making it so people are against each other. I mean, like Zach said, it was textbook shooting. Now, granted, it was a death. It's tragic. It should not happen. But we have evil in the world. We know this is going to happen. And we have to do everything that we can to try to make everybody see the complete picture. We don't hold anything back. And if you read the article, the family had mentioned that this gentleman would shoot anybody. He was such a kind person. The same narrative that they were putting with everyone else, with George Floyd, the Ferguson situation, the same narrative. But come to find out, we saw this video because it was released in a timely fashion. We saw that this individual was an actual aggressive person. And the police were justified in what they were doing, because you can't have people walking down the street with a shotgun down the street and think that that's okay. That's not normal. And then you got the police called on him, and then that person turns around and engages the people who were trying to keep the peace. He engaged those officers, and they had to shoot them. But the people were getting together. This is the part that blows my mind, the part that I want people to grasp. Everybody always jumps the gun without waiting for the facts to come out. You can't do that. Granted, sometimes this justice system takes a little while. And when you find that the justice system did it wrong, then fine, go out there and protest, but you don't need to tear up everything. And then, but you're doing it in a way that is destructive, because what you're doing is you're starting everything without having anything. You're just going off emotion, just blindly, just out there. And then every single time, if you think about it, except for we all agree that Chauvin killed that man in a bad way. He was a bad cop. He shouldn't have done it that way. It should not have happened. That guy shouldn't have died. George Floyd should not have died. But in every situation, they always jump the gun, but they always have egg on their face at the end, because the facts come out and we find out the truth. That's the point. That's the point I wanted to make today in regards to this shooting. The police did an excellent job by releasing that video footage. And I hear now in regards, I know we're going to talk about this in the next segment, but I hear in regards to the George Floyd situation that Attorney General held the video from being released because they wanted this rioting, this actions to happen with the BLM and the Antifa and all that stuff. But I'm going to sit back for a minute, and Tony, I'll let you get in on this. I get emotional when people don't wait for facts. They always jump to conclusions and always base their actions off emotions without being rational about it. But go ahead.
No, absolutely. And we're going to get to the George Floyd body cam in just a second here. Like you said, that's our next segment coming up. But I know that Zach had something he was trying to say. So I'm going to give him a couple of minutes just to say what he had to say on that. And then we're going to move on to the George Floyd incident and the release of that body cam. But go ahead, Zach.
I just wanted to bring up a change that I wanted to see when it comes to releasing body cam footage, dash cam footage. It just seems like it takes too long. Where I've seen where body cam footage isn't released for months, years even. Where if police departments want to talk about transparency and they want to have a good report to the public, then they need to release these videos to the public a lot sooner. Because regardless of what's in the video, the video is gonna damn you or it's gonna help you. It's gonna happen eventually. They can't slow it down. So if you can release a video and hold somebody accountable and avoid a riot, or you can release a video and vindicate an officer and avoid a riot, as a police department, you have the responsibility to do that in a timely manner. But conversely, I do believe with the George Floyd riots, the public, they're like, we want to see body cam footage, we want to see this, we want to see that. But then they didn't give the system the opportunity to do that before everything just started coming down.
Correct. And you're 100% correct. And I agree with both of you that the body cam footage is there. It's there. It's the unblinking eye, like Jeremiah said. It's that unbiased witness. It doesn't have feelings. It doesn't have emotion. All it is sight. It sees everything that happens in the view of the camera, and it's aimed right at what's going on. So with that being said, yeah, I think that these body cams, whether they're good or bad for the officer, need to be released immediately following a shooting. Because at the end of the day, whether it's good or bad for the officer is not going to change anything in regards to what his outcome is, because it's either good or bad for the officer. And if it's bad for the officer, then that officer should be held accountable. And if it's good for the officer, well, then he'll be vindicated. But either way, we need to start releasing this and being transparent and showing these videos rather than holding them forever until it's finally released at the end of everything. And I get that prosecutors have to make their cases, but at the same point in time, we have an obligation to maintain the peace throughout this country. And the way to do that is transparency. Release the video, because if we release the video, the public will have faith in the rest of the department and in the system that, hey, this is what occurred. We're working on doing it, but you can see, just like we can see, this is what happened. This is an unedited version of the body cam. And this is what happened. And everyone needs to have body cam on. Absolutely, 100%. But let's move on to our fourth segment. Our fourth segment is the George Floyd incident. As most people know, George Floyd's body cam footage for his incident with Derek Chauvin was finally released. It was released to the Daily Mail. We cannot play the video because of copyright infringement, because the Daily Mail owns the rights to it, but the link is in the description. It's an 8-minute long video. We're going to go through the highlights on this really quick. So the highlights that we need to know about this video is it starts with the officer's contact of Mr. Floyd at his vehicle. Now, as soon as you see the officers contact Mr. Floyd, the first point to bring up here is that he resists from the beginning. The officers are trying to calm him down. The officers try to get him to come out of the vehicle peacefully. The officers try to get him to relax, and he won't. He's fighting the officers getting out of his own car. He's not complying. He's not talking to the officers. He's not giving them the information that they need. And in fact, Mr. Floyd's own passenger in his vehicle even says clearly on the body cam, stop resisting them more than once. So we'll fast forward in the video a little bit to when they actually start to put him into handcuffs. Now they get him into these handcuffs and he's resisting at that point as well, but they do finally get Mr. Floyd handcuffed, at which point Mr. Floyd immediately starts saying he can't breathe. He's having trouble breathing. He can't breathe. He is not on the ground at this point. No one's knee is on his neck. They haven't even tried to put him into the car. So now they try to put him into the back of the patrol car to get him out of there so that this does not become a problem and a scene. As they're attempting to put Mr. Floyd into the back of his vehicle, Mr. Floyd starts pushing with his feet. Another officer tries to get him to sit up in the vehicle from the other side of the police car, and Mr. Floyd pushes his way through, shoving the officer out of the way, and tumbles out of the vehicle. The officer catches him. They get him onto the ground, at which point they subdue him on the ground the whole time while he's in the car, before he was being put in the car, and after he got put out of the car by his own power. Mr. Floyd is stating, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe." This is before anyone put their knee on Mr. Floyd's neck. So Mr. Floyd then gets onto the ground. The officers get on top of him to control him. The important thing as well to note here is that the autopsy released at the same time. The autopsy report got released. And in the autopsy report, that was not only from the one medical examiner, but it was then checked by a second medical examiner. And we're not speaking of the independent autopsy report that they did. We're talking about the official autopsy report that was checked by two autopsy investigators, two coroners. When they did this autopsy, they saw and they noted no petechial hemorrhaging in the eyes or in the musculature around the face or the neck. Petechial hemorrhaging would be consistent with the cutoff of blood flow and oxygen supply to the brain from some form of a strangulation or chokehold. There was no sign of that. There was also no sign of any musculature or ligament damage, in Mr. Floyd's neck. They dissected all the muscles and ligaments that were in his neck, trying to find anywhere where there were tears or bruises or any kind of blood burst or whatnot. And none of that was present according to the two autopsy investigations that were done. So yes, in the video, while we do see that Officer Chauvin is kneeling directly above Mr. Floyd's neck, we do not know whether or not he placed any weight on Mr. Floyd's neck. At the same time, we also have no evidence to support, based on the autopsy, that there was any weight. That's not saying that there wasn't, just that the findings say or show that there wasn't. But we weren't there, so we don't know 100%. However, what is important to note is the resisting from the beginning, the resisting when they tried to get him in the car peacefully to get him out of there before it led to him being on the ground, as well as the fact that Mr. Floyd was stating from the beginning that he couldn't breathe. And the autopsy report also revealed that he had fentanyl in his system as well as other narcotics. So those are the important parts of the video from the body cam, as well as for the autopsy report. But I want to get everyone's take on this. So let's start a conversation. We'll start with Jeremiah. What's your points on this real quick? What's your take on it?
Well, all I have to say to begin this is that there was no racial bias. And I want to say to Candace Owen that she was right. This guy was lifted up as a martyr, as if this was racially motivated and those officers came out there to kill this black man. That wasn't the case at all. And I wanted to also point out, I have actually fought individuals that were on drugs. Now, I don't know if I ever fought anybody with fentanyl in their system, but I have fought someone that was tripping off LSD. And let me tell you, I wish I had other officers that were helping me, because to keep this person down on the ground is a task. To get them subdued enough to where you can actually put them in hand irons, sometimes you got to be unconventional in how you subdue this person. Now, as Antonio said in regards to the autopsy, I don't have the autopsy, but everything that he said that was found in the autopsy were not found. Everything that should have been found if a knee was completely on his neck that killed this man, George Floyd, would have been found in the autopsy. And Antonio has found the autopsy, has viewed it, and it shows that there was no particular hemorrhaging and things that would be consistent with being on his neck. So everyone knows that fentanyl attacks the respiratory system. And in the video, you can clearly hear Mr. Floyd saying, "I can't breathe. I can't breathe." And then with the emotions going, the stress going, his adrenaline going, that also is a contributory factor in why he could not breathe. He, with all the emotion and all the chaos that was going on, was going to have a significant episode, regardless if the police were there, if his emotions were up. The police were just doing their job, and they had to subdue and maintain this individual and keep him under control, because otherwise he's going to hurt himself even further, and he's going to hurt himself, and he's going to potentially hurt an officer. Now, the part that I do not agree with, Antonio and Zach will agree, because we're trained professionals and we've been in policing for a long time. Part of our duties as police is to be also a first responder, a person that can administer emergency medical life-saving techniques. Him saying he can't breathe, and you hear the officer saying, "Hey, yes, you can. You know, just calm down, calm down." And then him on the ground, what we see, what's been portrayed across this country, the video that's been blasted across this country, is shoving on his neck, and you see a lifeless body on the ground. As I said before, we're trained professionals in emergency medical techniques, first responders. Part of our duties is to also make sure that a life is saved, meaning that person is breathing. Chauvin didn't do that. I didn't see any of the officers doing it. I think that is the issue that really should be addressed in all this. This wasn't racially motivated. They were doing their job. They were responding to an area that was, they were responding for a call for service and was able to had a legitimate reason to be there. And then they made their approach to an individual who became hostile at the beginning. He tries to portray as, "Don't shoot me, officer, don't do this," as if he's not resisting. But anytime, everybody needs to understand, when police make contact with you and they give you lawful instructions and you refuse to do or adhere to those lawful instructions, you're non-compliant. You are resisting. All he had to do was do what was told of him. And like Antonio said, you could hear the person in the video clearly saying, "Stop resisting."
Correct.
In my opinion, as I said before, in the North Carolina shooting, this video footage was not released when it could have stopped a lot of this that we see in our country right now. It could have stopped it. This was not racially motivated. What was racially motivated is holding the body cam footage and then allowing this to happen. That, my friends, was racially motivated.
I agree
But
100%.
as Candace Owens said, this guy was no martyr.
No.
He was a criminal.
Right.
And I stand behind that.
Right. We're talking about a guy who had a rap sheet as long as his life. All right. This gentleman started getting involved in crime from the time he was a very young age, and it continued throughout his life. We're talking about a guy who held a gun to a pregnant woman's belly while she was being robbed. Okay. We're not talking about a saint here. We're talking about a gentleman who, the police were called on him for a trivial issue of a $20 bill. However, he was non-compliant from the beginning. He resisted from the beginning. He was already hopped up on at least 2 known narcotics, one of them being fentanyl. He resisted. He fought with the officers. He fought his way out of the back of the police car, and it created a problem for him. I agree with you, Jeremiah. I think that the only issue that we have here is the fact that the officers did not render the aid that they were supposed to at the time that they realized that Mr. Floyd was no longer breathing. At that point, the police role has to end and the duty to protect life has to begin. He was already under control at that point. But I know we are running out of time here, so I want to give Zach a chance to weigh in on this because we still have 2 more guest speakers to get to. So, Zach, I'll give you a chance to weigh in on this. And we may end up bringing you back on the show later to discuss this more in depth. But for right now, just go ahead and weigh in on it and let's have your side of the conversation.
Gosh, thanks. Yeah, I mean, the body camera footage was pretty consistent with how it is when you got to deal with somebody who is a drug abuser or was suffering from some type of episode, right? He had a history of being violent and being armed and violent. So sure, the approach to the vehicle, cop has his firearm out, and as soon as the officer realizes that George Floyd's not a threat, he de-escalates, puts his firearm away, starts trying to talk him out of the vehicle, but George Floyd's resisting. You know, "Don't shoot me, officer, don't shoot me, officer." But like Jeremiah said, he's creating the image that he's trying not to be non-compliant, but he's not complying. He doesn't want to go with the police. Everybody does that. Nobody wants to get arrested.
Right.
Okay. Get him in the car. I've had people, post up on the vehicle and not want to get in the car. Now my partner has to reach through and pull him into the car. George Floyd went all the way through vehicles, said, "I want to lay on the ground, I want to lay on the ground." And that's where the problem started. As first responders, as Jeremiah said, we're trained. And I don't like the Monday morning quarterback, but I've dealt with people who were having trouble breathing or say that they're having pain when they're under arrest. And I go from, "Hey, you're under arrest," to, "Hey, you know what? You're in my care. I got to take care of you because your life is now my responsibility. Yeah, you committed a crime, but I'm not your executioner, your judge, your juror. I'm just here to enforce the law, to arrest you, and to bring you where you need to be for those people to judge you.
Absolutely.
Now, when George Floyd's body went lifeless, nobody did anything to try to resuscitate him or even see if he was okay. And to me, that would have been a huge flag. The biggest flag to say, like, this guy's been screaming, yelling, and crying this entire time, and now he's just quiet. That it doesn't make any sense to me why nobody did anything to act, or before he became lifeless. They'll say, hey man, why don't you let him up? Let's sit him up. Let's do this, that, or the other thing. Nobody buddy checked their officer who was knelt over him and said, hey, we got to do something with this guy before something serious happens. And that's where I have the problem is their conduct after they had him on the ground. It wasn't consistent with what we've been trained to do.
Absolutely. Care in custody was the issue here, in my opinion. There's no doubt about it. Care in custody is the buzzword for that. I believe, my personal opinion, if we take the knee on the neck out of the equation for a second, because we don't know if there was pressure there or not based on the autopsy report, but we do know that it was a technique that was allowed by that police department per their policies and under state law in that state. And we can go back to the Supreme Court ruling of Tennessee versus Garner, where we have an issue where even though, yes, it's not allowed, the officer still allowed his qualified immunity because the state law and the Supreme Court rulings were not clear on the subject at the time. However, with that being said, if we take the knee out of the equation, everything else about how they handled that situation, from trying to get him to the car, de-escalating by putting their guns away, trying to talk him out, getting him into handcuffs, trying to put him into the car to get him away from the scene because there was a mob created there, and everything up to the point of him getting on the ground was textbook police work. Without a doubt, that's how you handle it every time when you have a non-compliant subject like that. You get them onto the ground, you get them subdued, and do what you have to do. Again, we take the knee out of the equation for the second because that part is up in the air right now. We have no conclusive evidence one way or another. And for me, the issue, again, just comes down to care in custody, right? Not being able to render, or not refusing to render, actually, the care that's needed once he stopped protesting, once he stopped yelling and screaming. I mean, like you said, Zach, he's been yelling and screaming the entire time, and then out of nowhere, boom, he's quiet, and there was no care in custody. But we do need to get to our other special guests. Zach, I want to thank you for coming on to the show tonight and being with us and giving us your perspective on things. We appreciate you having you here, so thanks for that.
I appreciate it. Thanks,
Zach. All right, guys, so we're going to go ahead and get to our next special guest here. She comes to us from one of the America United chapters. Her name is Jean Hauck. And Jean, are you with us?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show.
Welcome to the show, Jean. We're happy to have you here. So, Jean, tell us which chapter you're coming from so everyone knows.
I'm from the Indiana chapter. I'm actually the chapter president. So, yeah, that's where I'm from.
Okay. And tell us, how are things going with the Indiana State chapter out there? What do you guys got going on?
So me and Liz are actually, Liz is my VP. We are actually working on a Save the Children's rally here in Greenfield, and maybe actually going back to Indy and meeting up with some of the other people that we met with on Saturday.
Awesome. So I understand you've gone to 2 rallies so far. Is that correct?
I organized a Back to Blue rally for Greenfield. It went really well. We had about 150 people show up between the 3 hours that we had it, and it went really well, really smooth.
That's great. And then you were at the Save the Children's rally as well, right? That was this past weekend or this weekend?
Yes, that was yesterday. It was in downtown Indy. I was actually going to go to another Back to Blue rally in Indy, but I saw this one and decided to change my plans and go to that one. That's so awesome. Yes, we were at the Save the Children's rally, and we made the local news.
That is really cool that you guys made the local news. I did see that you posted that on the state chapter page. Jeremiah, it's incredible just to see how much steam these state chapters are picking up and starting to really get out there and do things, and just see how involved people in those communities and those states are getting behind the different causes and campaigns that are going on with America United. And I mean, I'm sure you'll agree on that.
Yeah, we have a great team of state chapter presidents, and they're awesome. They're all out there really trying to get everything together and get out there and get the message out there and unite this country. They're bringing their states and trying to get everything, just lay the groundwork. And right now, we're going to get all the other state chapter presidents on there. But right now, we got 2 hard chargers that are actually out there along with the rest of them. But they're leading the way.
Absolutely. So, Gene, is there anything that you want to put out about your state chapter or anything that's going on? Any information you want to get out there while we got the audience watching?
So I think August 20th, I'm not exactly sure on the date yet, but they're doing another Save the Children's rally in downtown Indy because there's a worldwide Save the Children's rally going on. So they're planning another one for that, and I'm meeting up with the organizer of that one also to get the word out and get the word out about Operation Home Safe.
Hey, so,
yeah.
So Gene, I know you only got a few more minutes, but if you could do me a favor, I saw that you posted in the leaderboard today in regards to the Twitter page that you ran across today. I know it's emotional for you and you don't have to talk about it, but if you would you have a platform now where you can let the public know about what you found without being too graphic on that page.
So, as a mom, I'm on all kinds of social media because I have a 16-year-old daughter. I went across Twitter and somebody that I follow said, report this page. And what I saw really, really broke my heart. What that man was doing to that baby and what that mom was proud of, it killed me inside. So now my passion bigger to get out there and save these children because that mom was proud of what she was doing and what was being done to that baby. So, yeah. And I ended up calling my local PD on it, who referred me to the Indiana FBI. And they had so many calls on this video that they already knew what the username was. So they're looking into it, and I'm hoping they catch that person and get that baby some help.
So I got to be honest with you, Gene. After when I saw it on the leaderboard, it actually made me emotional. And I can't unimagine what you kind of explained inside of that post, and it's horrible. And
it's horrible. And I don't know if anybody else saw that video in our group, but all I did was cry for an hour afterwards. So
we have to take this country back, and this has been going on for quite some time, for a very long time. And
yes.
So now we're really going to stand up and get it, because this country now has found it and has taken notice. And thank you.
Yes. And with Twitter's new policy, I don't understand how they're allowing those things on there. That just irks me to death.
Well, thank you.
Gene, take some solace in the fact that Jeremiah and I have taken note of that Twitter incident, and we are going to do everything that we can from America United's national platform to get involved with the Office of Juvenile Justice and the Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And we're going to be contacting with them and doing what needs to be done in order to try and get that page shut down and bring those people to justice.
And also Operation Underground Railroad with Tim Ballard.
That's correct.
All right. Yes, thank you.
All right, Gene. Well, I want to thank you for coming on the show with us and telling us about your chapter and what's going on. And we appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. Thank you.
Thank you. And you guys have a good evening.
To be safe. All right, Jeremiah, we got one more special guest to bring on our show, and he comes to us from Virginia. He is the America United Virginia chapter president, Kevin Paul. Kevin, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here, buddy.
Welcome to the show, Kevin.
Well, thank you for having me, man. I really appreciate it. We got so much going on here in Virginia. I tell you, I'm waiting for the Confederates and the Union to get together out here in the streets. It's getting that bad. Go ahead.
What do you got going on?
We got this governor here. I think he's drunk with power, to be honest with you. This coming the 18th, I think it's in a week. We've actually got a rally getting ready to launch. He is going to bring a House Bill 961 up for vote again. He's trying to put ARs in the category of being an assault rifle. He wants to ban them. He wants to ban any gun that has more than a 20-round clip, any rifle, any shotgun that has more than 10-round capability. These guns will be illegal. He's already made it legal that you can't buy more than one handgun a month. He's trying to make it a misdemeanor to assault a police officer. That's one thing I just cannot see happening. It
It sounds like you guys got a lot of issues going on with your governor right now. He's trying to make a lot of laws changed, and it doesn't sound like too many of them are for the betterment of we the people.
No, not one bit. That's why the first time he tried this, there was probably about 10,000 people at the Capitol, fully armed. We had people coming from Texas supporting us. We had people coming from North Carolina, South Carolina. They came together. There was blacks, white, there was Chinese, there was all kinds of races out there, and there wasn't one issue, not one issue. And they cleaned up the city when they left. And now our city is destroyed. The governor and the mayor, they were supposed to go to court to remove the Confederate statues. Well, they went and made a state of an emergency call because of the coronavirus, and they removed all of our statues. Overnight, they removed them. And
So
they
it's
said
on
they
the
were
workaround.
going to, yeah, they were supposedly going to put them in a secure storage unit. Well, they're at our wastewater treatment plant laying on the ground.
Wow.
Wow.
That's our history. And that's one thing that the mayor is actually trying to push. He wants to rewrite Virginia's history. How do you rewrite the history books? You just can't do that. You know, this is the capital of the Confederacy. And if you hate it that bad, why do you want to be the governor and live in the mansion that was built by the Confederates?
Right.
But you live in that mansion, you don't have a problem being there. Makes no sense to me. Well, we're going to be there on the 18th. I'm hoping you'll be able to make it, Anthony. I'm not sure about you, Jeremiah, if you'll be able to make it or not. But we're going to be fully loaded and out front of the courthouse, letting them know that, hey, we're here and you're not going to take our rights away.
Yeah, I'm going to do everything I can to be there. And I believe Jeremiah was looking into whether or not he'd be able to come, but I am going to do everything I can to be there for you at that rally and help out in any way that I can from the national standpoint to try and get some more attention to this. I know that you guys have a bunch of different things that you're fighting right now with this governor. So we need to get some more attention on this and get some people going. I've only got a couple of minutes left here. So Kevin, anything you want to put out about your chapter real quick before we go to the closing segment?
Yeah, the chapter's growing really quick. I've got a lot of great people. I've made some wonderful contacts with some other organizations. Actually have the news is wanting to get involved with us. They're trying to actually set up a meeting with us, the police, and Black Lives Matters group to try to work together as a group and come together to change all this and to stop the rioting and the looting. But like I said, we're up over 165 members right now, and we're growing every day. The biggest problem that I'm having is finding people to be a part of the board, to come aboard and to help out, because it really is hard for one person to run an entire section, and especially when it's growing as fast as it is.
Absolutely.
So any feedback you guys could give on that would be awesome.
Absolutely. I know that we're going to be having a chapter leaders meeting here soon from the national. So you can definitely take part in that. And we're going to have some good information to put out to you guys to help you with situations like that. One thing I will say to all the viewers at home, we have chapters in 20 different states right now, ran by great people like Kevin here and Gene, who you saw a few minutes ago. They're great people, American patriots. They love this country, and they believe in the mission of America United that me and Jeremiah started, which started out as a thought and has turned into a national movement with different arms breaking off every single day on different campaigns that we have. So if you have a chapter in your state, you can go to our Facebook page and look. All the states that have chapters, the links are listed there. If you don't have a chapter in your state, you can call our 800 number, which is 888-287-2282. And you can either hit extension 8 and search by state name to see if there's a state chapter in your state. If not, you can hit option 5 for membership, and you can inquire with us and get a hold of one of our representatives to open a chapter in your state if you're interested in being state chapter president for that state. We're looking to get one in every single state. Like I said, we're at 20 right now. If you're living in a state that has a state chapter, please get in touch with the chapter presidents like Kevin and Gene to see if they need help on the board level or as community organizers and whatnot. So with that said, Jeremiah, do you have anything real quick?
If you don't have a state chapter in your state, just reach out to the closest one to you and make contact with that president. You can join with them, join the national, and then you can also join that state until one is open in your state, and you can make the transfer over to that state chapter.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Kevin. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show. I know me and Jeremiah, we're happy to have you here. Go ahead. You got one more thing. Go ahead.
I wanted to throw this out there. The 18th, if anybody is interested in coming from another state to join us, please reach out to me and let me know. We're going to have a designated area that we're going to meet at, and we're going to go up together so we don't have any issues and we don't have any problems. But yeah, we would love to have people come from other states to support us if they're not, doing anything on the 18th.
Awesome. So if you guys are able to go and support, even if you're not in the state of Virginia, but you're from another state or another state chapter and you want to go support Kevin, you can reach him at vapresident@americaunitedllc.com. VA for Virginia, president at americaunitedllc.com. That's his corporate email. You can also get a hold of him through the 800 number. Again, that's 888-287-2282. And you can just search with option 8 for Virginia State Chapter, and it'll pull up his information and you can go directly to his extension. And on top of that, you can also join his Facebook page for his state chapter, which is facebook.com/groups/AU Virginia chapter. So please reach out to him and let him know if you can be there. Kevin, again, we appreciate you being on the show with us tonight. And thank you so much for taking the time and patiently waiting for your chance to speak with us on the show. So thank you so much. Okay. So Jeremiah, let's go ahead and get into our closing end of the show here. So again, real quick, we'll touch on Operation Home Safe again. Just remind everybody that that's a new campaign that we've started, Operation Home Safe. That is going to be the newest campaign that we've done to stop child sex trafficking, as well as to bring pedophiles to justice and get them off of social media where they are targeting and hunting these children. So again, we are partnering with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, as well as the Office of Juvenile Justice. We're in talks with them right now, trying to create an official partnership. But any money that we bring in goes to that campaign, as well as our other campaigns, which are All Lives Matter and Red, White, and Back the Blue, as well as furthering the movement of America United itself, which is to unite the entire country as Americans and patriots. Jeremiah, I know we have the t-shirt sales going on. I know we're doing really well with that. Did you want to say anything about the t-shirts?
So the t-shirts, I'm having an issue with my device here, but if you can hear me, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you and see you.
Okay, great. All right, so the t-shirts will end at midnight on Tuesday. So please, it came back. We extended the opportunity for anyone to go and buy their t-shirt. It's going for a good cause, and they're wonderful, beautiful, quality shirts. So please, they close Tuesday at midnight. So run out and grab your t-shirts and support the cause. And like I said, they're beautiful shirts. And when you come and join us at the rally, please show your support and wear your shirts with you. Bring your shirts with you.
Absolutely. The link for the t-shirts is in the description of this video. So you guys can go ahead and click on it right there, and you can go ahead and buy your shirts right now if you want to. Remember, everything that you buy on that site, whether it's a t-shirt, tank top, children's shirt, women's shirt, whatever it is, the money goes towards supporting the organization America United, as well as all the movements we have, especially Operation Home Safe, which is something we're pushing really hard right now to get that going. And really build that and get some steam behind it. So we appreciate that. And you can also donate additionally when you purchase the shirt. If you want to make an additional cash donation, you can do that at the time of checkout. The option is there for you. We also have the PayPal link at paypal.me/America United, where you can make just a cash donation if you don't want to purchase a shirt. Again, paypal.me/America United. Go in, set how much you want to donate, and then you can go ahead and put in your credit card number and do your purchase. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for coming on to the show with us tonight and watching. For those of you who are watching at home, we appreciate you as always. You've been a great audience. Jeremiah, thanks so much for another great conversation. I'm looking forward to doing it with you again on Sunday.
Bye, everybody.
All right. Take care, guys.